out there, and I hope all of you are safe. But not just the main thing is, and if you think not familiar with me, yeah, you can refer to your class. So I'm going to homework to find out my name in the next class. So I expect you would tell me, right? And this again in next class, you already started off with class of 1. And remember, last year you had statistics and economics, and this year going to 50 marks of microeconomics, 50 marks of macroeconomics. First, you have to start off with Unit 1. I'm going to start off with Unit. I'm sure all of you have your syllabus. So what I'm going to do is that all of you included in that group that opened, and the others who have not joined to make it as you can to join groups. And the syllabus of microeconomics uploaded in, right? And for you have got this yet. Microeconomics of 5 minutes and macroeconomics of 5 minutes. Okay. So, like I said, we are going to talk Unit 2. We have got it written in slide. So, Unit 2 is about consumer behavior, and so here we are basically studying about equilibrium, meaning of consumer equilibrium, attainment of equilibrium, what is known as unit approach, and that's written one piece because we also start off with the concept of consumer equilibrium of one commodity, and then consequently we'll follow it with commodities. Okay, so I'm going to consumer behavior. Consumer define goal connect. The hawk. All of these constitute consumers. So we define a consumer who buys service for satisfaction. Now, every line of value for money, it simply means that we want to get the full value for money we spend. Okay, so a consumer is maximizing satisfaction when is good on the services. And the signing of consumer behavior concern, we are on two approaches: cardinal utility and ordinal utility. Cardinal utility cardinal utility हमारी satisfaction to keep maximize to satisfy maximize survey he body said that utility, that satisfaction can be met in terms of utility. Is concept we measure it in terms of a unit called use. Sort of simplify that to say utility simply means satisfying power. So I want a commodity. Suppose now I want a mobile. I have this mobile. That means I have got satisfaction from the mobile. In other words, that mobile contains utility for me. Now here is an example. Suppose I buy 2 commodities. Say examples are bread and I this bread gives me more utility and one is a psychological concept. So I give value, I assign a value, say 8 use to the bread that I have purchased. satisfaction or utility. The utility I get from it is half from bread. So that I give from I touch it and I give say for utility satisfaction that I have get half from bread, right? So all this time I have been using a word use simply is a unit of utility. We can measure weight of a commodity, say measured in kg. We can measure height. Suppose we in terms of similarly, we can go to cardinality theory. This cardinality theory is given us is also called Marshall concept. According to cardinality, all the goods and commodities economy, which gives us this, we can measure the spend. This we can measure in terms of units. So satisfaction we get a commodity means that it becomes for us, and utility can be measured in a unit called units. Utils in terms of the psychological concept. In the sense, commodity has or conveys different amount of satisfaction to different people. A mobile, now I was talking about a mobile. A mobile might give a greater satisfaction to say a working person right now needs a mobile on working. Say as a fancy student out there, because even students need mobile nowadays, and say another man who stay home doesn't need working, he needs for some other activities. Rather, let me give you more specific examples. So in your class, I need chalk. Chalk lagi. Black chalk करने. Chalk utility any utility market but one compound. To at the moment in that a pencil or better utility satisfaction. So it simply means that use or use utility that person. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that we cannot equate utility usefulness. Satisfaction, yes. Okay, tell me a example. Suppose case of hugs. We know that hugs is socially beneficial and also, but as long as the person demands a bottle of hot drinks, selection from it is usually for him. Usefulness here is but utility. So it means as long as a person's action is met, commodity or service contains utility for the person, and it not necessarily be a commodity. And like addition, you use imaginary values and use the yardstick to satisfaction of the results at one quantity or service. Marshals now have yields to measure and use not satisfaction and or service. Like very difficult to come I am the from one different units of util analogy. So comparison might be difficult. So an interpretation alpha should have that we can all measure utility in terms of price. As that remember go to the textbook. That is example it gives 8 euros. Now suppose I bread, I give 8 rupees for bread. So, now assuming 1 to 1 rupee, when I give 8 rupees, it means that the bread being utilized for if I can measure, let's go back to this. If I can measure utility, I get a set of utilities, makes comparisons easier, and we will this comparison enables us to arrive at customers equally. So we have absolute understand by consumer. We are trying to look into the concept consumers equilibrium with the help of the concept of cardinal utility. In cardinal utility, assume that satisfaction function of goods measure and integer terms of utils. Now, with set of utility, there are terms across frequently. Natural utility, which is in short CU, utility in short MU. Total utility, total say. Okay. So, total utility simply means a given period of time, consecutive one after the other, hey, গোটেই items of consumption পৰা যিমান total satisfaction আমি পাইছো, total utility আমি পাইছো, সেইটো যেতিয়া আমি summation কৰো, that gives us total utility. Marginal utility means the utility that I have got from the last unit consumed. Okay, let's see what we are talking about. Suppose এতিয়া তোমালোকে কলেজলৈ আহিছা, লাঞ্চ ব্ৰেক হৈছে, বিৰাট ভোক লাগিছে, কেণ্টিনত দৌৰিছা, ঠিক আছে, কেণ্টিনত চাই যেনিবা ইমান ভোক লাগিছে, 5টা চিঙৰা খাইছে। চ' 5টা চিঙৰা যে খালা, ফাৰ্ষ্ট চিঙৰাটো যে কনজিউম কৰিছা, তাৰ পৰা অলপমান ইউটিলিটি পাইছা, ছেকেণ্ডটোৰ পৰা পাইছা, থাৰ্ডটোৰ পৰা পাইছা। চ' ইন দিছ কেছ U1 is 1 samosa, U2 is 2 samosa, U3 is the 3rd samosa. In this way, UN is the 5th samosa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pasta samosa khai total satisfaction ziman paisa, total utility ziman paisa, that is TUN. Got it? Marginal utility means marginal শব্দটোৱে হ'ল borderline, additional unit of consumption পৰা যিমান utility paisa, সেইটোকে কয় marginal utility. So, ইয়াৰে formula হ'ল MUN equal to TUN minus TUN minus 1. আমাৰ এই exampleটোত আমি কি কৰিছিলো, 5টা চিঙৰা কথা কৈছো। চ' কেণ্টিনত যাই পেলাই লাঞ্চ ব্ৰেকত 5টা চিঙৰা খাইছা, ভোকত থাকিব পৰা নাই আৰু এনেকুৱা অৱস্থা লাঞ্চ ব্ৰেকত। 5টা চিঙৰা যদি হ'ল, TUN is the total utility from 5 samosas minus TUN minus 1. N minus 1 means total utility from 4 units of samosas. So, total utility from 5 samosas minus total utility from 4 samosas will give us the marginal utility or the additional utility from the last, the 5th samosa consumed. Okay? So, that is the concept of marginal utility. Thoriya parisane? Total utility mane jimanta item at one go consume korisa, tare junkhini summation satisfaction paisa, hekhiniye hol total utility, and marginal utility hol last unit consume, additional unit consume opra jiman satisfaction paisa, that is marginal utility. Okay, marginal utility ulwar aru eta alternative formula ase, change in total utility divided by change in total units consumed. So depending upon the information that you have in hand, you can use either the first formula, MUN is equal to TUN minus 1, or you can use MUN equal to change in TU by change in quantity consumed. Have you seen one thing? Total utility is nothing but the summation of marginal utilities. Compare কৰি চোৱাচোন. TUN যে আমি দিলো, আমি ইয়াতে দিছো U1 means utility from the first unit consumed. U2 means utility from the second unit consumed. U3 from the third unit consumed up to UN from the nth unit consumed. So আমি যেতিয়া সেই প্ৰত্যেকটো আইটেমৰ পৰা কিমান মাৰ্জিনাল ইউটিলিটি পাইছো আমি হেতু সামেশন কৰি কৰি যাও টোটাল ইউটিলিটি দিয়ে এই কনসেপ্টটো ক্লিয়াৰ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে এখন সিম্পল এখন আমি শিডিউল চাওঁচোন শিডিউলত খালি তিনটা কলম আছে ফাৰ্স্ট কলম হ'ল ইউনিটস অফ items consumed 1 2 3 4 5 আমি ইয়াতে 6 ইউনিট কনজিউম কৰিছো আমাৰ কমোডিটিটো আমি ইয়াতে আইসক্রিম হিচাপে থৈছো ঠিক আছে Next to whole marginal utility. Marginal utility মানে প্ৰত্যেকটো আইটেম যে মই কনজিউম কৰিছো in this case ice cream প্ৰত্যেকটো আইসক্রিমৰ পৰা মই কিমান satisfaction পাইছো আৰু ইয়াতে যে টেবুলখন যেতিয়া তোমালোকৰ আগত টেবুলখন আছে চাই যোৱাচোন First ice cream opera definitely more satisfaction is highest. Prothom unit to consume kori definitely sobotse beshi bhal lage. Second unit to jeta consume koru titio mo bahut satisfaction ase kintu prothom to nisna nohoy okoman holo komi jay. Third to jeta ma consume korisu mo satisfaction to ase positive kintu aru komi goise. Fourth to jeta consume korisu aru By the time of fifth unit consume korisu, this is a marginal utility by additional satisfaction 0. Tamne point of saturation, point of satiety. A2 ice cream moi khabo lage karne khaisu, moi kintu yapra ko satisfaction extra additional poana. Eto okol example to very much applicable in real life. Nijo kothai bhaba birat pia lagi ase. Prothom class pani pra jiban khai satisfaction paba. Consequently, each glass of water prajiman satisfaction poa jay komi komi ahe, right? And enakao hobo je yar pisot fifth ice cream tour pisot jodi aru eta ice cream khwa satisfaction to bade dissatisfaction minus disutility, right? So yate aru marginal utility is negative. অন্যায় কৰিব আমাক ভালতকৈ বেয়াহে হ'ব so this gives us an idea about the behavior of marginal utility with increase in the units of commodity consumed how about total utility remember we had said it is nothing but summation of marginal utility so আমি এই schedule খনত কেনেকৈ বস্তুটো আমি identify কৰিব পাৰো first unit to pra swason আমাৰ total utility 0 we have just started So marginal utility or total utility in this case is same. Second unit to pra, prothom to pra ami marginal utility paislo 20. Second to pra ami kiman paiso 16. 20 and 16 kiman ho 36. So summation of total utility from 2 units of consumption is 36. Third unit to jeti ami consume koriso amar marginal utility kiman paiso 10. Tamne additional utility hol 10. 36 plus 10, 46. So total utility ami paiso 46. Tarpisot fourth unit to jeta consume koriso amar marginal utility hol 4. Additional utility is 4. And ami 46 plus 4 is 50. Fifth unit to remember ami aro satisfaction to our maximum. Hey to stage ot amar 0 satisfaction aru yatke beshi amar satisfaction nabare. So Total utility constant ase fourth unit karone jiman total utility fifth unit karone himane total utility mane pasta unit consume kora pisotu amar total utility ekei thake and jeta ami sixth unit to consume korisu titia amar disutility ahi goise -6 so total utility starts descending right so if you look into this table, what will you see? Total utility goes on increasing as long as marginal utility is positive. Increase to kintu lahe lahe gradual hoye ahise. Jetia tomar marginal utility 0 hoy, total utility is maximum, right? আৰু যেতিয়া marginal utility negative হয়, total utility কমা আৰম্ভ কৰে, starts descending. So have you realized? This in fact gives us a relationship between total utility and marginal utility also. So a schedule khonot ami not only do we identify the behavior of marginal utility with increase in units of commodity consumed, we can also make out the relationship between total utility and marginal utility. So, junkhini bostu ma agote koisilu, hekhini khali moi yate monot thakibo karone point hisabe di disu. Marginal utility jeta 0 hoy, hetu hol point of maximum satisfaction for the consumer. Our hetu whole point of satiety, right? Our marginal utilities it a negative hoy, it a disutility ahise, dissatisfaction ahise. Let's go back to the previous slide. So, whatever is written in the next slide, when we discuss this schedule, those points I have already highlighted to you. Okay. Now, this schedule has been converted into a graph, into a diagram. In the diagram, we are showing two curves. Upper curve is of total utility, the lower curve is of marginal utility. Just look at the upper curve. We see that as the units of commodity consumed are shown on the OX axis, and utility is shown on the OY axis. As the units of commodity consumed goes on increasing, total utility goes on increasing. When total utility is maximum, if you look into the graph and the curve below, you will find that at that point, marginal utility is 0. And when marginal utility becomes negative, total utility starts descending. Okay, so we relate it to this schedule and taking the numericals of this schedule. On the basis of the numericals we have written this graph, right? And another thing, we have already opened up a WhatsApp group. Once this class is over, you can get back to me. If there is anything which is not clear, we can further discuss it in our groups. Okay. So the relationship, again, we have already discussed the relationship when we did that schedule. I'm just writing it down here so it becomes easier for you to understand. As long as marginal utility is positive, total utility increases, right? When marginal utility is 0, total utility is maximum. And when marginal utility is negative, total utility falls. So this relationship is important. Try to understand this relationship, and to understand this relationship, fall back on the schedule I had given, and then you use it to understand the graphs also, which have been given to you just now in the slide. Okay, so far we have discussed about the concepts of marginal utility and total utility. Now we can use these concepts to give us what is known as the law of diminishing marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility in simplest of language means the more we have, the less we want. We are talking about the rational consumer, remember. বস্তু এটা যিমানে আমি কনজিউম কৰি যাই থাকোঁ, তাৰ পৰা যোনখিনি আমি ইউটিলিটি পাওঁ, সেইখিনি কমি কমি আহে, And this is what the law of diminishing utility, marginal utility makes very clear. বাকি একো কবই নালাগে, আগপিনে চোৱা বঢ়িয়া খোৱা বস্তু আছে, বাৰ্গাৰ্ছ কেইটা আছে, আৰু যে থাৰ্মোমিটাৰৰ নিচিনা তোমালোকে দেখিছা, চাই চোৱাচোন। এইটো থাৰ্মোমিটাৰে হয়, ইনফেক্ট এইটো ছেটিছফেকশ্যন থাৰ্মোমিটাৰ। চ' প্ৰথমটো কমডিটি কনজিউম কৰোঁতে ছেটিছফেকশ্যন থাৰ্মোমিটাৰৰ কিমান গ্ৰেডিং হৈছে চোৱা, ছেকেণ্ডটোৰ পৰা কিমান পাইছা, আৰু থাৰ্ডটোৰ পৰা কিমান পাইছা। 4 নম্বৰ বাৰ্গাৰ এটা দিব যদি খাব লাগে, তেতিয়াহ'লে সেইটোৰ পৰা কিজানি 0 ছেটিছফেকশ্যন পাবা, আৰু যিমানে নাম্বাৰ অফ বাৰ্গাৰ্ছ বঢ়াই যাই থকা হয়, সিমানে দেখিবা ছেটিছফেকশ্যন কমি গৈছে, আৰু এটা পইণ্টৰ পিছত আৰু দিলেও খাব নোৱাৰা হৈছে, isn't it? That is the point of this utility of negative satisfaction. So these satisfaction thermometers gives you a visual of what the law of diminishing marginal utility is all about. Like what I said, the more you have of a commodity, the less of it you want, subject to the assumption that we are talking about a rational consumer. Okay? This concept has been given to us by German economist H.S. Gaussen. So it took Gausson's first law of consumption বুলি কোৱা হয়, আৰু ইয়াতে তেওঁৰ ফটোখনো মই ডাউনলোড কৰি দিছোঁ ইন কেছ কোনোবাই জানিব খুজিছা তেওঁ দেখাত কেনেকুৱা আছে। Okay, so this is also known as Gausson's first law of consumption. Now, is a theory to Mapolu, law of diminishing marginal utility, which means more of a commodity you have, the less of it you want. This whole law is based on certain assumptions. There are a lot of assumptions. I've just put in 7 assumptions here. What are these assumptions? Cardinal measurement of utility. আমি assume কৰি লৈছোঁ যে আমি কিমান satisfaction পাওঁ, সেইটো আমি measure কৰিব পাৰোঁ। আমি সেইটোৰ against এটা numerical value attach কৰিব পাৰোঁ, ঠিক আছে? Monetary measurement of utility. এটা numerical value আমি assign কৰিবতো পাৰোঁৱে, আমি সেইটো in terms of monetary units আমি convert কৰিব পাৰোঁ। This is very important, consumption of reasonable quantity. Ita more যদি বিৰাট পিয়া লাগিছে আৰু চামুচেদি মোক কোনোবাই পানী দিয়ে, definitely this law is not going to stand whole ground, because whenever I consume a commodity, it has to be assumed that it is given in a standard amount. Maybe a glass of water, we don't say a spoon of water, right? Continuous consumption. এনেকুৱা হ'ব নালাগে যে এক গ্লাছ পানী মই এতিয়া খাইছোঁ, আকৌ আধা ঘণ্টা পিছত খাইছোঁ, আকৌ 1 ঘণ্টা পিছত খাইছোঁ। The consumption process has to be done one after the other. It's a continuous consumption process and of a standard size and proportion. No change in quantity. Glassৰ সাইজটো সলনি হ'ব নালাগে। এনেকুৱা হ'ব নালাগে যে প্ৰথম গ্লাছটো একেবাৰে সৰু, তাৰপিছত গ্লাছৰ সাইজটো আৰু সলনি হৈ গৈছে। The uniformity যেতিয়া নাথাকে, then this law will not hold good. Like I said, it's very important. আমি ইকনমিক্সত যেতিয়াই আমি কনজিউমাৰৰ কথা ডিছকাছ কৰোঁ বা প্ৰডিউচাৰৰ কথা ডিছকাছ কৰোঁ, the first thing we need to be very clear is that it's a consumer is rational, logical person. আৰু এটা ইয়াতে আমি assumption লৈ লৈছোঁ, independent utilities. That means প্ৰত্যেকটো units আমি consume কৰিছোঁ, প্ৰত্যেকটোৰে utility is independent of each other. And another thing, প্ৰত্যেক মানুহৰ utilityও independent of each other, right? So keeping these assumptions is আমি যে এখন let's go back. Where was it? Wait. It's a law of diminishing marginal utility কথা যে কৈছিলোঁ, that the more and more units of a commodity we have, utility derived from each successive unit goes on diminishing. This law, we have converted it into a diagram on the basis of this schedule. Okay? So a schedule আমি কি কৰিছোঁ? We have 3 columns: units of ice cream, total utility, marginal utility. And by now, I think you're quite familiar with the concept of total utility and marginal utility. Total utility আমি দেখিছোঁ যে বাঢ়ি গৈ আছে, at the maximum paise when unit of consumption is 5, and thereafter total utility starts descending. In a similar way, marginal utility behavior is also identified in this schedule. Marginal utility, again, do you remember? Additional utility. So, additional utility to প্ৰথম ইউনিটৰ পৰা হাইয়েষ্ট হয়, সাবসিকুৱেন্টলি কমি কমি আহে, এটা পইণ্ট আহে যেতিয়া তোমাৰ ইউটিলিটিটো 0 হয়, that is the point of satiety, আৰু তাৰপিছত ইউটিলিটিটো নেগেটিভ হৈ যায়. So, এই schedule বেছ কৰি আমি graphical presentation of law of diminishing marginal utility ইয়াতে দেখুৱাইছো. On the OY axis, you have marginal utility or measurement of utility, and on the OX axis, you have the units of item consumed. Yate dekhisa upai pratyekto box huru hoi hoi ahi ase. It simply means that the amount of satisfaction obtained with each additional unit of commodity consumed goes on diminishing. By the time you reach the 5th unit, the marginal utility is 0. By the time you reach consume the 6th unit, your marginal utility is negative. All right. So with this, I come to the end of this class. We have looked into the concept of utility. We are right now talking about the concept of cardinal utility approach. And we have just finished the law of diminishing marginal utility. Okay, thank you.